Don't waste my time. Let's go.
With the Nintendo Switch 2, the Big Red N have finally given gamers an official, legally white way to play GameCube games again. For some of you, it'll be the first time, and I kind of envy that, but for OG Gen X gamers and the aging millennials currently freaking out about how the 6th generation of consoles are a quarter of a century old right now, I am the Gen X flavor, and man, I'm so happy to see at least some of the GameCube's classics get another day in the sun. I even dug out my original Wavebird controller so I could do it properly. In fact, I'm so enthusiastic about it all, I even 3D printed a tidy little custom stand for the Wavebird so it can sit proud and tidy on my desk with my other active use controllers, not just, plopped there, flat on the desktop, and disrespected among the other controllers. That would be unacceptable. Hello again, I am Blunty, and once again, shout out to Prusa, who, while not a sponsor here, did send me one of their newest Core 1 3D printers to check out, and man, 3D printing is so much easier than it used to be. Last time I dipped a toe into these waters almost a decade ago, so much friendlier and less fussy and crap. I am loving it. And while we're on the subject, shout out to the Switch 2 dock crew, whose names were carved into a customized 3D printed dock cover I made. Also crazy easy to do stuff like modify prints like that with Prusa's software. Again, not a sponsor spot, just really enjoying myself with it. Back to the GameCube stuff though, it's a welcome trip back to a console that was massively overshadowed by the monster success of the PlayStation 2 and the shining new novelty of the OG Xbox, Microsoft's first stab at the console space, and the Dreamcast, which was also there. I think mainly so Nintendo loyalists can have some copium about how the GameCube wasn't technically the worst selling 6th generation game console. I'm loving re-experiencing Soul Calibur 2, for instance. I'm also really looking forward to replaying a pair of the most unique and challenging Pokemon games ever released, with Pokemon Colosseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. But, as the title of this video no doubt has foreshadowed, there is a big, fat problem that you'll need to be warned about, be prepared for, and know how to fix or work around or escape if you're wanting to experience these games in the purest form the Switch 2's Classic Collection emulation is at least capable of delivering to you, and it's the controller. The GameCube controller has a rather unique layout, at least for the face buttons, and that alone can make it feel kinda weird, even awkward, to play GameCube games on modern symmetrical diamond face button layouts. Partially if you're an OG and it's part of the nostalgia package, but also many of these games will have on-screen button prompts that reflect this unique layout, and that can be anything from distracting to flat-out confusing when you're playing on a modern controller layout, especially if you never played these games the first time around on the controller they were designed for. But that is actually not the big issue with the controller. Thanks to its popularity within the competitive Smash Bros community, it's actually not too hard to get a comparatively more modern, even official Nintendo GameCube controller, even brand new still, and third-party knockoffs with modern USB cables in place of the original proprietary port, and even Bluetooth wireless ones. No. The problem is, Nintendo recently seemingly deliberately broke compatibility with GameCube controllers. And this is something the Smash community got very cranky about less than a year ago, but went completely under my radar because, well, I'm not a Smash player, when a firmware update for the original Nintendo Switch, update 19.0.0, broke functionality for all of the GameCube controller adapters, which of course you do need because, well, the GameCube used a proprietary connector. We just mentioned that. This firmware update even apparently broke the compatibility for Nintendo's own first-party adapter. Nintendo did push through a hotfix for this a fistful of weeks later, 6-7 weeks later, with firmware update version 19.0.1, which quote-unquote fixed an issue with the GameCube controller and adapter. But here's the fun little corporate shitlord part. It only restored functionality to their own first-party adapter. All of the third-party stuff was still broken. What a douche move. So, Here's the big problem for GameCube Classics. This new incompatibility with third-party GameCube controller adapters was inherited, again, likely very, very deliberately, I would say, by the Switch 2, and thus its GameCube Classics collection. The most popular third-party GameCube controller adapter alternative, the Mayflash adapter, also eventually managed to create their own firmware update for their adapter hardware in order to restore functionality on the original Switch, and this does still work with the Switch 2. And if you buy a new one of those, right now that specific model of that specific brand, and if it is relatively new stock, which of course there's no way for you to know if it is before you buy it, but if it is new stock, it should come pre-installed with a new compatible firmware, and away you go, plug and play just like it should be. But if you happen to get some older stock, or if you buy second-hand, you need to know about this issue, what the issue is, why this issue is, know there's a fix for it, and how to apply the fix. Which does include downloading an exe which is not signed, so you are going to get a security warning from your Windows machine about it. And you do need a Windows machine to do this, there is no other alternative way. So unless you can do all of those things, it's kind of just frack you. It just will not work, for no apparent reason. And here's the other problem. Mayflash aren't the only ones out there with third-party solutions. Again, thanks to Smash's lasting popularity, there is tons of copycat devices out there, and many of them are basically, or even literally, just clones of the Mayflash. They're all broken too. Mine was, as I discovered on my launch day livestream when I tried to plug mine in and use the Wavebird controller. I've been using a cheapo Mayflash clone for over a decade now. Basically, just for PC use and emulation. Don't tell Nintendo. But it also came in handy when I eventually jailbroke my Wii U, don't tell Nintendo, to play GameCube games natively on that thing too. And some of these Mayflash clones will in fact be compatible with the official Mayflash firmware update that restores functionality. But not all. And there is exactly 0 easy ways to know whether or not your Mayflash clone is compatible with Mayflash's firmware, not even if you dismantle the thing. Because I dismantled mine, and check this out. Inside, my adapter looks identical to this other one I saw posted to a forum that is compatible with Mayflash's firmware. But the Mayflash firmware updater will not recognize it as such, as it does with some but not all clones. So mine remains broken for Switch use and Switch 2 use, rather more importantly. Luckily, it does still work on PC flawlessly, so it didn't instantly become just friggin' e-waste thanks to Nintendo's douchebaggery. Also, luckily, I was able to get an official Mayflash adapter reasonably cheaply, and I even had enough Amazon gift card balance for it, so it didn't cost me any cash, so to speak. Doesn't mean I'm not pissed off that I needed to buy a new one, because my old one works perfectly, thank you very much, Nintendo. If you hadn't locked the damn thing out with your firmware horse crappery, I wouldn't have had to do any of this. But the new Mayflash one did arrive with the new firmware, and it did work seamlessly and immediately with the Switch 2. I will leave an Amazon affiliate link in the down below for the one I got. You should, in theory, fingers crossed, have the same results. And if you don't, it is an official Mayflash one, so you can always update the firmware easily. But Soul Calibur 2 feels so much better with my original Wavebird controller, which itself was so solidly built. Even now, literally 23 years later, it still looks, feels, and works like new. I love this thing. And although I never played it when it was new, it's been on my to-get-to list for a long while now, so my first playthrough, at last, of Zelda Wind Waker will be done properly on a GameCube native controller. Which is good, because this is one of those games with the GameCube-specific UI controller overlays and whatnot, both with physical appearance and their labeling and their positioning all on screen relative to the real-world controller. And while I can't quite separate if it's nostalgia or inherent native game designs made deliberately for it, or a mix of both, but GameCube games really, really do only feel proper when you are using a GameCube controller. At least in my humble opinion. So yeah, aside from me gushing, again, about the Wavebird, this was mostly a heads up on a big Nintendo-made pile of crap you might step into accidentally if you too are looking to reach for a deeper, more authentic experience with these GameCube games in the Nintendo Classic Collection on the Nintendo Switch 2. Your first time through or on a revisit. You have to be warned about this potential day-ruining issue. Now, for the record, I have never once used a third-party GameCube clone-style controller that matched the feel and especially the robustness of the Wavebird. Some are pretty decent, even okay-ish, for their budget prices. I wouldn't trust them to last, though, quite honestly. But no, if you can track a decent Wavebird down, I strongly recommend investing in one. There's even a third-party wireless dongle replacement these days, which is a pretty recent event. Very useful, as a lot of second-hand Wavebirds are sold without the original adapter because, well, someone lost it or whatever. So you can potentially get a pretty decent Wavebird pretty cheaply and then use this third-party dongle. Yay. Official Nintendo remakes of the wired GameCube controller, produced mainly for the Smash Bros. Audience again, aren't too hard to get either. Second-hand, new, whatever. So that's probably the second best choice. Then, of course, there is the not at all even remotely competitively priced but very tempting official Nintendo Classics version, designed specifically for the Switch 2. I personally cannot justify the budget for that thing, but if you do know a truly decent third-party modern alternative, please do let folks know in the down below. For me, though, Team Wavebird for life. Or at least for my life, this Wavebird will surely outlive me. But thanks for watching. You have been so warned. Nintendo have been up to their usual crappery again, and if you don't know about it, it might have caught you out as we get more and more of these GameCube games rolling through. Maybe there's one you're really excited about, and then, oh no, look at that. Well, now you know. Bloody Nintendo, man. They make it so hard to like them. Like, I want to like Nintendo. They do so many fun things and so many fantastic classic games, but then on the corporate side, they're just constantly dick hammers. Stop. Come on, guys. You could be better than this. Bloody hell. Anyway, thanks for watching. I am Blunty. Thank you as always to the patrons. Thank you to the SwitchDude.crew, and I will catch you next time.